Hello and thank you for watching UATV. I'm Antosha from our studios in Kiev, Ukraine. Here are the current headlines. Ukraine awaits an International Monetary Fund decision on the next tranche of financial help. We have the latest. A helping hand from Japan. Tokyo plans to give Ukraine nearly $4 million to help people living near the front line. First this hour, Russian hybrid forces continue sporadic attacks against Ukrainian positions in the front line in Donbass, despite an agreement to full truce over the Easter holidays. In total, Ukrainian positions were targeted several dozen times, mostly near Mariupol and Donetsk. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko has spoken with his German and French counterparts Angela Merkel and François Hollande. According to the Ukrainian presidential administration, the three leaders spoke about the current situation in Donbass, the release of hostages, and further steps to fully implement the Minsk agreement. The statement also says Poroshenko thanked Merkel and Hollande for their support of Ukraine's visa-free bid with the Europe's Schengen zone. Ukraine is one step closer to receiving the next tranche of a loan from the International Monetary Fund. The IMF will consider granting Ukraine the next $1 billion loan installment today. The permanent representative of the IMF in Ukraine, Jerome Washer, says the issue will be discussed at the board of directors meeting. The IMF will pay particular attention to new macroeconomic indicators, which were revised to include the effects of the trade blockade against the Donbass-occupied territories. The trial of Crimea-based journalist Mykola Semena resumes today after a two-week postponement. The judge had stopped the trial after Semena's defense requested a larger courtroom to allow for a more open process. The Radio Free Europe Radio Liberty contributor is being prosecuted for an article he wrote criticizing Russia's 2014 illegal annexation of Crimea. The case against him was opened in spring last year. Semena maintains his innocence, saying he was expressing his right to free speech. He faces up to 5 years in prison if convicted. Up to 30 protesters have been detained in Moscow. This marks the second time in 2 weeks that peaceful demonstrations in Russia have ended in mass detentions. Although the turnout at Sunday's protest was much smaller than the last week's rallies, the message remained the same. Demonstrators marched against corruption, demanding the resignation of Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev, who has been accused of embezzling an estimated $1.2 billion. According to Moscow police, the protesters were detained for the, quote, breaching of public order. The demonstration came as opposition leader Alexei Navalny, the man behind the Medvedev's accusations, remains behind bars after being detained at last week's Moscow protest. Japan is set to give around $4 million to help residents near the front line in eastern Ukraine rebuild their lives. In the framework of the humanitarian aid project, the Japanese government hopes the money will help rebuild houses, hospitals and schools, while also providing basic necessities like food and medicine. UATV's Alexander Query has more.
Japan has allocated $3.9 million in humanitarian aid for people living near the front line in eastern Ukraine. This is not the first package of assistance Japan has provided Ukraine since Russia's war began in 2014.
Since the Russian aggression over the Donbass area, Japan started big economic assistance, both humanitarian and economic recovery in that region. So this is a continuation of our support to that region. I myself had a lot of opportunity of visiting this area, both Luhansk and Donetsk. And I myself witnessed that there are many people who need this kind of assistance and who need this kind of.
In 2016, Japan allocated $13.5 million for the restoration of infrastructure in eastern Ukraine. There is a clear plan to render humanitarian assistance to Ukraine. It is carried out within the framework of cooperation between Ukraine and the government of Japan. humanitarian aid is also foreseen by joint plan between Ukraine, the World Bank and the United Nations. It is a plan to restore Donetsk and Luhansk regions. Such work is hugely important for us. According to official UN data, about 4 million Ukrainians need help on both sides of the front line in Donbass. Neil Walker, the UN's resident coordinator in Ukraine, visited the region several times within the framework of the humanitarian mission.
It is hard that this conflict continues and that it is largely unnoticed in the world. It has severely affected the social and economic conditions in Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts. But it is also true from my first-hand experience that Ukrainians are working hard to get their lives back to normal.
In return, international donors like Japan have expressed their hope for peaceful settlements to Russia's war in eastern Ukraine.
Evening gowns instead of sportswear. A ceremony called the Heroes of the Athletic Year 2016 has been held in Kyiv. Top Ukrainian athletes, coaches and other sports representatives attended the event and received various awards. UATV visited Ukrainian sports Oscars too.
Ukraine's top athletes and sports representatives attended the Heroes of Sports Year Awards, a kind of Oscars ceremony for Ukrainian sports. Up for grabs Best Athlete, Best Coach and Best Team, among other awards. Ukraine's National Academy of Sport chose the winners. One of the judges, retired Olympic basketball champion Alexander Volkov. He says it was difficult to choose the best of the best. It is difficult, especially when someone participates at the World Cups or the European Championships and shows good results throughout the season. It is really difficult, especially, to be honest, when you're not a sports specialist, but just a fan. You select by your heart. The award ceremony opened the nomination Olympic Hope of Ukraine. Biathlete Kristina Dmitrenko, champion of the Youth Olympic Games, won that gong. The People's Choice Prize was given to Olympic champion sprint canoeist Yuri Cheban and Anna Rizadinova, bronze medalist of the Rio Olympic Games in rhythmic gymnastics. For non-Olympic sports, Anna Muzychuk was recognized at the ceremony. In 2016, she won the world champion in rapid chess and blitz and the World Chess Olympiad. She says, "It's still not a competition and nothing depends on me here, but it is always very pleasant to win. And I'm very glad to receive this award. Of course, all contenders are worthy of winning. They're Olympic champions and champions of the Europe and the world. I feel comfortable in these people's presence." Anna herself is a fan of Ukrainian artist gymnast Oleg Vernyayev. In August 2016, Vernyayev won the gold medal in the parallel bars competition at the Rio Olympics, while also picking up a silver in the men's all-round competition. Meanwhile, Sportswoman of the Year was awarded to Ukrainian saber fencer and two-time medals winner of the 2016 Olympic Games, Olga Kharlan. Olga was also the winner in the category Team of the Year. It's cool. Everything is very cool. An Olympic year, Olympic statuette. This is the dearest thing that we have. We were very pleased to be chosen, because all the nominees are worthy of winning. All the guys fought and won. It is very nice that we were selected. It is very pleasant to appear with this award on stage. It is really pleasant to be at such a celebration among such people. It is pleasant to stand near Oleg, always to see him in the Olympic. We often meet, see each other, and talk. I was so pleased to see him here. All in all, the ceremony was a chance to thank the Ukrainian athletes and sports representatives who put in hours and hours of work to represent the country on the world stage.
That's the latest news from Ukraine. For more information, check out our social media pages. Just type in UATV English. See you in a bit.